Hello, my name is Jason Freeman. I'm a Cal Poly Industrial Engineering student, and my project for my senior project is on the Fastenal branch special stock inventory analysis. Here's a brief overview on the left side of the screen of what I'll be covering today. Some terms and definitions that are important to understand are SKU, which is a stock keeping unit, BSS, which is a branch special stock keeping unit, and inventory, which is the property of a company, which can often consist of raw materials, work in progress, which is WIP, and final goods. To understand these in relation to Fastenal's business model, Fastenal has over 700,000 standard SKUs. This helps them maximize revenue, but can often decrease the profitability. The standard SKUs, there's an example on the right hand side of the screen. That's part number 0728904, which is a 3/4 inch steel insulated compression connector made by Rayco and Hubbell. These are examples on Fastenal.com and can be accessed through Fastenal.com or by calling Fastenal. The left hand side of the screen shows a branch special stock SKU, which is 10826-04605. That first 5 digits is the unique identifier for the local San Luis Obispo branch. This part number was created for a customer who needed this specific safety latch that Fastenal doesn't sell in stock for the general public. So that part number was created and was sold to that customer. Sometimes these BSS parts are created and then the customer doesn't need them, and so Fastenal is left with excess inventory. This brings me to my problem statement. At the end of September of 2015, branch special stock inventory accounted for approximately $157,000 of the $1.2 million total inventory value combined throughout the 12 Fastenal branches comprising this district. Because of limited travel time and my school schedule, I decided to narrow the scope down to 5 local Fastenal branches from Lompoc to Paso Robles. A brief summary of my research and references that I use to understand lean methodology in the supply chain as well as best practices for inventory are summarized here. Some of the best ones were Stephen Bragg's Inventory Best Practices, Thomas Goldsby and Robert Martichenko's Lean Six Sigma Logistics, as well as the 2014 and 2015 annual reports for the Fastenal Company, which gave me a better understanding of the overall goals and progress of the company itself. The goals for this study are the following 3. Reduce the cost of BSS items to 9% of the total cost of inventory for the 5 Fastenal branches included in the study. This goal was set because a decrease from 13% to 9% seemed sufficient for my 3-month time period. The second goal is to create a process, a standardized operating procedure for Fastenal employees to use to build off of this groundwork. That's an industrial engineering tool that is often unimplemented and leaves too much leeway to people so that things aren't efficient. And this process, the goal of it is to make it more efficient and easier to follow for employees of Fastenal to use to get rid of BSS inventory. The third goal is to simply provide suggestions to the Fastenal general and district managers who are the stakeholders for the results. Let's see. The data collection and experimentation was begun with this flow process chart for the process that the researcher was coming to. The researcher developed the problem statement, decided which data was relevant, collected data, organized that data into spreadsheets, and used Pareto charts to figure out, using the 20/80 rule, which parts are most responsible for the costs of BSS inventory. After all that was decided and analyzed, the researcher began experimentation. This 4-step process is one that any Fastenal employee can use to get rid of excess BSS inventory. The first part of the process is to contact the customer which the BSS inventory was created for. The overall goal is to sell that product to the customer either at full price or a discounted price, just so that you don't operate at a loss. The operating at loss can often affect the margin, which affects the paychecks of the outside salespeople and managers. If the customer does not need this inventory, then the Fastenal employee will contact the supplier from which that material was purchased and request a return authorization. If they can return it, they do. If the vendor is not able to accept it, then the employee moves on to the third step, which is to put the BSS inventory onto the third-party sales website. This gives one more opportunity for the general public to view these non-conforming inventory parts online. If those don't sell, then the last resort is to set aside BSS inventory to either be written off, donated, or dumped. Here's a sample of the data collection pages that the researcher used. This first one is a total cost of inventory report, which was collected every month for 4 months over the course of these past 4 months, which came from each of the 5 branches. This is just one branch's sample from, it looks like, February 4th. You can see the total cost of standard stock, total cost of special stock, as well as the total cost of both stocks is on there. You can see that BSS there in the middle accounted for about $7,000, which is just under 7% of that overall total cost of inventory. This is an example of, let me just move myself up here. This is an example of a BSS inventory cost sheet, also collected from another branch. I sorted the data so that the most expensive items were at the bottom. You can see that that item purchased from Ocean State Stainless is 1 1/8" by 7 threads per inch by 10-foot stainless steel threaded rod valued at $750. When I called Ocean State Stainless, they were the first one I started with since it was the most expensive. They were unable to return this item because it was specially manufactured and it was outside of the 30 to 60 day return policy window. That was the most common problem that I came across when trying to return these to vendors. You can see that these 11 items are responsible for over $2,000, which is a large chunk of the BSS cost of this specific branch. I collected all this data for 5 branches over the course of 4 months. I had a lot of data to analyze, but it was all very useful in understanding where the peak problems are and the root causes as far as numbers go. And that led me to perform a 5 why analysis to find out the soft root causes. Asking these 5 questions, we collaborated at the branch in San Luis Obispo and discussed and decided that the training method of Fastenal does not reinforce the financial liabilities caused by inventory buildup. These employees are much more focused on increasing revenue at a profitable margin and often forget about the risks about building up excess inventory. The results early on in the data collection, I found an anomaly in the fasteners section in Lompoc. They had a $117,000 mistake, which the district manager was able to correct, dropping that total cost of inventory for BSS parts from $153,000 to $36,000. That alone was a substantial enough change to justify my project. The results are as follows, comparing November 27th once this error was resolved, the results from November 27th to February 1st. You can see a 5.56% decrease of the BSS inventory. Significant changes were made at Paso Robles, and the overall total cost of inventory didn't change too much. And so we see that the BSS did drop about 5.5%, which is my goal. My suggestions are for branch employees to revisit the top 5% of BSS inventory every 4 to 8 weeks, train employees, and implement general manager approval to increase accountability for salespeople and general managers for their BSS inventory. My conclusions are that this is a great springboard for anybody who wants to pursue branch special stock inventory analysis for Fastenal in the future and explore more options. Thank you very much. Have a great day.